Hello everybody, welcome back to yet another how to stay safe video. Given the weather conditions that we've had today and some of the scenes that we may have seen on the news and online, I thought I would do a little bit around adverse weather conditions, i.e. rain, and actually using your motor vehicle. We've all done hundreds of thousands of journeys in our vehicles. We don't give it a second thought. We get in, we start up, we drive off. We expect to get to our destination promptly without any difficulties. And most of the time, that's exactly what happens. Occasionally, Mother Nature decides that she's going to just make things a little bit more difficult for us. And certainly for those people in Hampshire and Sussex last night who suddenly found themselves stranded on major arterial roads that were flooding with rising flood water that required to be rescued by the emergency services, things sometimes can go very wrong very quickly. So what do you need to think about in these sort of scenarios? Well, first of all, if you pay attention, you will normally know that we're looking at some pretty yucky weather. And if there are amber or red weather warnings issued, really stay home anyway. And as for if your journey is essential, really I can't think of many journeys that fit into that, as so essential that you have to do it. If you can think of some examples, please add them on the comments and let me know. If you are taken by surprise while you're out driving, normally by encountering flooding on the road, you've got two choices. You can turn around and go and find another way, or you can decide to try and drive through the flood. Now, I'm not saying that you can't drive through a flood, but you do need to know what you're doing. It helps if you can find out the depth of the water on the road, but I accept that is not easy. And if you happen to be the first person to come across this piece of flooding, particularly on a dark country type road, you may well be in the water before you've even realised. Now, what do we need to think of? Well, how deep is that water? Is that water just sat there, not moving? Or is it actually flowing across the road? If the water is flowing, my advice is turn around. The book says that 60 centimetres or 2 foot of water moving is powerful enough to move a vehicle, your average car. And once it starts moving in the flow of water, you have no control over it. You can have your foot on the brake, it doesn't stop the water carrying it sideways down. You then have to decide, are you going to stay in your vehicle, and where is it going to end up? Or are you going to exit your vehicle? And if you're going to exit your vehicle, how are you going to do that? You may well find that you cannot open the door because of the pressure of the water against the door is keeping the door shut. Door on the other side of the vehicle you may be able to open because that's not got the water rushing up against that door. If you can't get out the doors, if you remember the previous video and the emergency orange hammer, that is the time to use that to break the window and to clamber out. Don't jump out into the water. You don't know how deep it is. Again, 30 centimetres or just under a foot of water moving is powerful enough to sweep an adult male off his feet. If you're going to clamber out of the car, get onto the roof. Hopefully you'll remember to take your phone with you so you can call 999 for the emergency services. Even if you aren't exactly sure where you are, they can track your phone signal and they will have an idea of where you are. If you've been prepared, you will at least have some sensible clothing on. There is a risk that if you are out in heavy rain and low temperatures, that you will start to suffer from cold, exposure and hypothermia. And basically, if you don't get out of that fairly soon, the next one on the list is death. That's pretty final. So, if the water does not appear too deep, and I would suggest that it comes no higher than to the bottom of your wheel trim, you can drive through. First gear, do not go fast, keep going steadily, do not take your foot off the accelerator, do not perform wild steering manoeuvres, and keep the engine revving. Hopefully you will get through. However, if you have gone through and created a big tidal wave, you may find that the backwash will sweep through into the engine compartment, into your air intake, and the engine will stall. If that happens, don't try and restart, because you will just ruin your engine. The only thing that engine is good for then is to go to the scrap heap. Again, you then have the problem of getting out of your vehicle and making it safely. You may want to think about perhaps keeping a spare pair of boots or Wellingtons, easily reachable. So if you've got to go through and wading water, you can keep your feet dry, because wet feet's pretty miserable. If your car is flooded, and particularly if water enters the car, you may well be looking at a write-off. The damage that it does to the car, the electrics, the engine compartments and everything in it, it just basically is so expensive to repair or replace, your insurance company will normally write it off. If you're very unlucky, they may say that they're not going to pay out because they believe that you were at fault in driving into the water in the first place. So repairs or replacement of the vehicle, a lot of money. So think about it when you're next venturing out on dark and stormy nights. Stay safe and hopefully come back and see me on the next video. Take care, everyone.